Hi, you are watching Wanderings in the Wilderness with Pastor Ken, and I'm Pastor Ken Chorley at the Market Street Presbyterian Church in Lima, Ohio. I've entitled these series of videos Wanderings in the Wilderness because I have been ordained as a minister of the gospel for 40 years. I have served a variety of churches in a variety of communities over a period of 40 years. So I feel that I have been wandering in the wilderness, just like the Israelites. In this series, I tell personal stories from my life, and then I try to make some spiritual application from the Holy Word of God. So the title of this message is The Property Line. And this comes from my first pastorate when I served a little country church outside of Newcastle, Pennsylvania. The church was located in such a way there was a country road, and then you turned into the driveway of the church. And you could go either to the right or to the left. Now all these X's here are graves. This whole area here on this side was a cemetery dating all the way back to the late 1700s. Now up where you see the green and the swirly lines, those are fields. And these fields were farmed. Now the farmer got permission to come on the country road, use the driveway of the church, go around through the parking lot, and then begin to work the fields. Now there was one individual in the life of the church that seemed to have personal grudge against the farmer. So the individual kept saying that when the farmer brought his tractor down the driveway, the tractor was too heavy and it was breaking up the driveway. Well, that complaint went on and on and on. And those who were in leadership, the trustees, did not really believe that was true. So basically, they paid no attention to the idea that the tractor was tearing up the driveway. However, this individual started a second attack, a second approach to finishing a little personal feud with the farmer. The individual began to say that when the farmer dug up the fields and got the fields ready for plowing, the farmer was intruding on over and crossing the property line and taking some of the portion of ground that was used for the church cemetery. So this dispute went on for a long time until finally the trustees decided that the whole matter could be settled by having a survey done, so that the surveyor would survey where the field line was and where the line was for the graves in the cemetery. Now what occurred was not what you expect, and not what was hoped for by the person who had the vendetta against the farmer. Because that individual was hoping to say that when the farmer plows the field, the farmer is actually taking ground from the cemetery. And everybody sort of held their breath and prayed that that was not true. However, the results of the property survey came back. And the surveyor said, "I'm sorry to tell you this, but the cemetery line has taken some of the property of the farmer's field, and furthermore, there are actually a few graves that lie within the property of the farmer's field. In other words, the church made an error somewhere along the line and actually intruded over into the farmer's field. Well, the way it was settled was the trustees decided to be completely quiet about the results of the survey. That some families had their loved ones buried in the farmer's field. And it wasn't church ground. And that is how the property line dispute ended. So this brings to mind a story that comes from 1 Kings, chapter number 21. And I will read it and talk a little bit about it. Sometime later, there was an incident involving a vineyard belonging to Naboth, the Jezreelite. The vineyard was in Jezreel, close to the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. Ahab said to Naboth, "Let me have some of your vineyard to use as a garden vegetable, since it is close to my palace. In exchange, I will give you a better vineyard, or if you prefer, I will give you what it is worth." But Naboth replied, "The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my fathers." And Ahab went home sullen and angry because Naboth the Jezreelite said, "I will not give to you the inheritance of my fathers." He lay on his bed sulking and refused to eat. Does that sound like any of us? His wife Jezebel came in and asked him, "Why are you so sullen? Why won't you eat?" He answered her, "Because I said to Naboth the Jezreelite, 'Sell me your vineyard if you prefer. I will give you another vineyard in place.' But he said, 'I will not give you my vineyard.' Jezebel, his wife, said, 'Is this how you act as king over Israel? Get up, eat, and cheer up. I will get you the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite.' So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, placed his seal on them, and sent them to the elders and nobles who lived in Naboth's city with him. In those letters she wrote, 'Proclaim a fast, and seat Naboth in a prominent place among the people. But seat 2 scoundrels opposite him, and have them testify that he cursed both God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death.' So the elders and the nobles who lived in Naboth's city did as Jezebel directed in the letters she had written. They proclaimed a fast and seated Naboth in a prominent place among the people. Then the 2 scoundrels came and sat with him and brought charges against Naboth before the people. Naboth cursed God and the king. So they took him outside the city and stoned him to death. And then they sent word to Jezebel, 'Naboth has been stoned and is dead.' As soon as Jezebel heard that Naboth had been stoned to death, she said to Ahab, 'Get up, take possession of the vineyard. He is no longer alive, but dead.' And Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, so he got up, went and took possession of Naboth's vineyard." Now, of course, Elijah the prophet's going to come in and try to let the king know that this was an evil deed. And Jezebel, that evil woman, brought this about. So here we see it was not a property dispute. It was actually very clear that the vineyard did not belong to the king. But by evil, Eventually, the king acquired it because of the evil efforts of his wife, Jezebel. So beware of property line disputes. It may surprise you what you'll find out. I'd like to thank you for watching Wanderings in the Wilderness with Pastor Ken. End of video.